皆さんおはようございます。プラドです。今日のトピックは特許翻訳です。So today, I would like to talk about some patent translation issues. And this is the first video in a series that I'm starting regarding patent translation. Lots of kind of tips and tricks, things that I learned working with Japanese patent applications, and also things from seminars that I do. Maybe many of you may know me from doing translation seminars in Tokyo and Osaka and Kyoto and such. So I've learned quite a bit from comparing Japanese to English and prosecuting the US applications. So today's topic is going to be providing value. And I'm going to do several videos on this because it's a complicated topic. There are a lot of different ways you can provide value to your client. So I'm focusing today just on some kind of English issues with the translated English. So I'm going to talk about 3 points today. First point is going to be regarding the translation check. After the Japanese application is translated to English, and then providing comments on that translation check. And there's basically two. There's standard comments that you do, and then I'm going to talk about drafting related stuff. And then 3, I'm going to do an example. So I'm going to show you an example of some Japanese language and how it is usually translated to English. And then I'm going to show you a way to kind of correct the English a little bit to make it better for the US practice. Because the Japanese applications don't really match up with the US rules too much because the Japanese rules are different. So I want to help you improve the quality of your translation. Okay, so point 1, translation check. So typically there's a check for finding typographical errors, maybe some errors with the machine translation or software didn't translate perfectly, or just typical things like that. And then what I want to focus on is finding issues with the drafting that could cause problems with the US application. Now, this doesn't mean that the translation is wrong. Okay, the translation is, from my experience, translations are very good and accurate. The problem is the rules for patent applications in Japan are different than the rules in the United States. So the Japanese application is perfectly done, perfectly good for Japan. But when you translate that Japanese to English, it doesn't fit exactly to the different rules in the United States. So what I want to help you do is adapt that application better for the United States prosecution. So in that regard, finding the drafting issues or problems is what I want to focus on. The kind of problems that can arise are from objections, things like 35 USC 101 Alice type issues, and 112 issues. I'm not going to discuss 102 or 103 too much because that's a kind of different thing. It's not so language based. But these 3 things, objections 101 and 102, or 101 and 112, are highly language based, and they're related to the translation. Okay. Point 2, so providing the comments. Generally there's the standard comments, which are regarding typos or maybe figure numbers, things like that. And but I want to focus on what I call as kind of drafting comments. So these are comments that you will provide to the drafters, to your client, and giving them kind of feedback, how the translated English from that Japanese will be kind of perceived or understood in the United States. So specifically noting US practice issues. So for example, if you correctly translate some Japanese one way, but that English, the translated English is correct, but it doesn't fit well with the US practice. So maybe we can change the English a little bit, but it will still match the intent of the drafter and the intent of the writer of the application. So it won't be an incorrect translation or anything. It'll be kind of just improved. Point 3. So here's an example. So as you know, it's very common. I see this in every Japanese application I think I've ever read. Honhatsume. So literally that means this invention, the present invention. And that's a correct translation. However, this language, the present invention, specifically using the word invention, this can be a problem for US practice. So invention in the United States equals all of your claims. It's everything together. So if you say the present invention has a housing, does that mean all of your claims must include a housing too? Or if you say all of the present invention includes a housing and your claims, some of your claims do not have a housing, is the claim invalid? Or should the claim have a housing kind of implicitly understood in there? It's not clear. So I want to help clarify that for you. And you can avoid these kind of problems. So it can limit the scope of your disclosure. So if you say the present invention has a housing, but you intend some of the claims to not have a housing, then maybe those claims will have a housing. So it'll limit the scope to force all of your embodiments to have a housing. And we want to avoid that. So how can we kind of fix or improve this English for the US practice? So let's imagine the translation is the present invention includes a housing. So does that mean all embodiments have a housing? Does that mean all of them do? Well, maybe not. It depends. And it's a complicated issue. And that's why we want to have clear language in the translation so we can avoid this kind of ambiguity, this kind of difficulty. So here's a suggestion. So right here, at least one embodiment of the present invention includes a housing. So this means an embodiment is merely an example of your invention. An embodiment could be one claim. One claim could be a claimed embodiment of your invention. At least one embodiment means at least one of every disclosed example, at least one has a housing. So some of them may not have a housing, and that's okay. So, as I said, embodiment is an example of the invention. So if you say at least one embodiment has a housing, it could be some embodiments don't have a housing, and that's okay. So now you can have claims reciting a housing and claims reciting not including a housing, and it's okay. So it can broaden the scope of your disclosure and also in turn broaden the scope of your claims, or prevent your claims from being narrowed unnecessarily. So to conclude, the goal here is to provide valuable comments. Machine translations are getting better these days, and as human beings who are being paid to translate, we have to show some value. And providing these kind of comments, I believe, is a good way to show value to your clients. So, number one, find that target English language. So in our example, it was the present invention. The present invention was the target English language. Then we provide the improved English expression. So the improved English expression is at least one embodiment of the present invention has a housing, for example. Okay, so I hope today could be helpful. I hope you can subscribe to the channel because I release videos at least once a week with new tips for translation, prosecution, specifically directed to Japanese companies, bennishi, patent engineers, and translators. So thank you very much. ありがとうございました. And see you next time.